Welcome everyone to this Library 2.025 2025 Worldwide Virtual Conference, Innovative Library Creativity, Change and Impact. This session is called Build a Better PB&J, Process Mapping Your Way to a Smoother Library. My name is Crystal Trice. I've worked in library since 1998, and that means I am keenly aware that we sometimes overcomplicate our work. And so I'm excited to dive into one fun way of simplifying our workflows so that we can deliver services to our library community in more effective ways. Because being innovative doesn't always mean something new and shiny. It can also be improving what we're already doing well. And there's our sponsor. And when's the last time you felt like this? Hmm. Work is so complicated, it takes 3 times as long to do. Why don't you simplify it? Well, I could, but I'm busy with all this complicated work. Process mapping that we're talking about today is a gift that we give ourselves. We give ourselves time, effort, and permission so that we can save that time and effort in the future while delivering even better service to our patrons. And it's fun along the way. So I'll be sharing a few library examples of process mapping, and fun was a real common denominator. So let me ask you, in your library, which procedures match these things? They seem like they might take they take more time than they should. They have a lot of handoffs between different people. They cause patrons to wait, or they tend to be bothersome for a different reason. Type in chat the first one that comes to mind. What's a process that seems like this to you? And I know that, really libraries are filled with processes like acquiring items and cataloging them and circulating them and shelving them and planning events and planning lessons if you're in a school, university. I mean, there's so many different procedures that we do on a daily basis. Volunteer engagement. Let's see, here comes some. Creation of flyers for marketing. Oh my goodness, Jennifer, interlibrary loan definitely has a lot of processes coming, going, all of those things. Processing technology and devices. Oh, that's a good one. Lots of procedures there, and they do seem like they should take more time than they really should. Well, here's a brief case study of a library that I'm working with, and they wanted to work on their opening procedures because they were outdated, they were cumbersome, and they were pretty impossible to use to train new staff. So in October, there was a leadership change at that library, and they got some initial staff thoughts on what they could change for their opening procedures. In December, they asked me to help them do that. And then in January, we mapped out the procedures for opening and identified different improvements. And one main pain point that staff noticed is that they were counting a very small amount of money every day. Because the library had already eliminated overdue fines, the amount gathered for printing and some other things still came in, but was really small. Sometimes nothing, sometimes a couple of dollars. It was always very small, but it took a long time to count that money. So in January, I met with some other staff, including city staff in the finance department. And in February, we implemented some changes. Now, in this picture, we're smiling big, but the work was uncomfortable at times because even positive change can be difficult. Here's some phrases I heard from staff during our work together. You're not going to be doing this, are you? So you don't really care what we do you? And so I would say, well, of course I care, just like you do. I think there's room to make things go more smoothly for everyone, don't you? Or one person said, I really don't mind doing the work. We don't need to make any changes. And I said, you're right. We don't have to make any changes, but we have this gift of time to work on possible changes that we might want to try. Should we keep going? And then another person said, I've worked here 10 years. I can handle this. And I said, I know. And that's why I'm so excited to work with you because you know the shortcuts we should all be taking to help things get done more efficiently. And so let's look at the results of this case study. One is that the whole process took about 15 hours of my time and about the same for the staff that I was working with. And that work yielded several small changes, plus one very simple workflow change of counting the money once a week instead of every day. And they save 5 hours a week of staff time by that simple change, plus the yuck factor of counting that money every day. And the best part was this morale boost and the sense of ownership. And after this small work that we did together, the staff had a flurry of different changes for different workflows that they wanted to make their everyday work go more smoothly. Okay, I'm going to give you a case study of a different library that I worked with, and this was with their Library of Things collection. And I like to say there's 4 steps to process mapping. There are more complicated versions out there, but this is the one that I developed to help libraries go more smoothly. So we're going to look at each one in more detail with this example. So the first is creating a process map. And the easiest way to do that is sticky notes. And this one in the picture is way neater than any I've ever created with libraries, but this is what it could look like. And what you do is you take one regular process and you establish the boundaries. You choose the beginning point and the end point to stay focused. And each step is one sticky note. And the decision points, if you have any, are diamonds. And the benefits to doing a process map, mapping it all out, even though everyone knows the workflow already, is that you can really detect waste faster. You can also see everything at once, and that can be helpful for each team member understanding how their part affects the workflow, or it could visualize the workflow for any decision makers or help with training new staff. And it helps you with making changes because those involved in the process map it out, and then they're also involved in making any potential changes in experiments. So process mapping is a simple tool, but anything can get overcomplicated, and so these tips can help. The first thing that helps is to create clear objectives. So our objectives are written on the very right-hand side. We wanted, for this library of things, we wanted to keep a patron focus, and we wanted it to tie to lifelong learning support because that was strategic planning goal of Library of Things. We also wanted to address staff concerns, including physical space in the workroom, mental space from all the clutter of all the things piling up in the workroom, and the technical services librarian's workflow and time, and clarity for a library assistant that was helping with this project. Another tip is to map the process in its current state, not what you want it to do, what you wish it would do if it was all working really well, but what is actually happening every day. And the technical services librarian was embarrassed about the current state, but it was really important to get clear on how things were currently working. One of the things she said was, there's all these broken cats. You can see one in the picture. It's a robotic cat. She said, they've lived their 9 lives. Now what? Another tip is to work backward. Keep any sub-processes in your overall process simple, include only necessary details, and get feedback from everyone involved in the process. Even if someone only does a tiny bit, that tiny bit could be crucial to the whole process. And here is our initial Library of Things process map, and we actually did several different parts of the process because we weren't sure what we were going to focus on together because there's processing, there's ordering, there's repairing. So what were we going to work on? So we did an overall process map with the sticky notes we had available. Step 2 is identifying waste. In Lean, which is an agile mindset and process, it's with a capital L, Lean, there are 8 types of waste. They're pictured here on the screen. And identifying areas of waste helps us find where we might improve our processes. So If we back up to the opening procedures example that I gave at the beginning of the presentation, there was waiting because part two had to wait for part one in different parts of the process. There was transportation waste because a supervisor had to drop off this tiny amount of money at the city office. And there was extra processing by counting the money every day. So for Library of Things, we updated the process map once we decided that we wanted to go from when the item arrived to when it was ready to check in. We really wanted to do processing and focus in on that. And we identified quite a few areas of waste. Those are the small bluish, greenish sticky notes. We have waiting, motion, defects, extra processing, overproduction, lots of areas of waste. And then the exciting step, ideation, where we brainstorm ways to streamline and do our work differently, especially focusing on the areas of waste that we identified. We don't have to actually do all the ideas that we come up with. So for Library of Things, though, we came up with 14 unique ways to address those areas of waste. And then we sorted them on a matrix by impact and effort. And so those things that were low impact and low effort, we called those low hanging fruit. If they were low effort but high impact, we called those quick wins. And then we starred the ones with asterisks that we wanted to work on, that the team was going to work on to make the process better. Oh, yeah. Adriana mentions unused talent from our systems because the LMS can now do things that we used to do manually. That's true too. And step 4, the last step, is choosing some actions and testing them out. There's not a guarantee that things will improve, so the testing includes some analysis. So for Library of Things, the things with a green check mark are items that already happened in the testing 2 months after the initial process mapping. And here's what the team said about the process. There was quicker processing and cataloging. There was decluttered, weeded, and surplus items like those robotic cats. They were able to delegate others to help with the process. There was a happier tech services librarian with more space. That was a great one. And they were re-energized, and that was my favorite outcome for sure. So we're going to practice process mapping together, and I'm going to show you 2 quick videos to get us in the right frame of mind for practicing.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly.
So I couldn't help myself. I didn't play the whole song, but that was a favorite story time song for me back in the day with kindergarten. But now we're going to watch a video of what happens when your process map instructions, in this case, aren't clear enough.
Step 1. Get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
Well, it doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite.
So we want our processes to be clearly mapped so that everyone understands what they're doing. And so let's go through the 4 steps for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So the first step is the process map. Well, I grabbed one from the internet. Can you believe there's a process map for this? There sure is. Can you see any missing steps? If you can see any missing steps for making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I know the type might be small on your screen. Type those missing steps into the chat. And as I look in this map, I see several tips that we have talked about so far and other tips for making a good process map. And those are that there's a clear start and stop to the process. You could do it from working backwards, the eating of the sandwich, an important step. There are some sub processes like buying ingredients and storing them, and those are kept simple enough to not really be on the map. It's very detailed, but not overly detailed. So it has a lot of good things going for it. I didn't see anything come in chat for missing steps. There could be, depends on your point of view, but it was pretty detailed. Not everyone wants peanut butter in their jelly jar. That is a good point, Brandy. Sometimes it comes together that way. That's just weird. But some people don't want it. And the plate is not included on the items list. Maybe you don't need a plate. Maybe use a paper towel. Or probably you need a plate though, huh? And they didn't include it because they mentioned the plate, I think, later. Okay. So step 2 is to identify waste. Now, that process map had 13 steps. Well, there's a picture book that has 17 steps. We're not going to look at all of them, but we're going to look at 3. And the reason we're looking at 3 is just to practice looking for waste. If you want to look at all 17 steps, you'll have to find the book or get it on interlibrary loan, which requires a lot of steps too. Okay, so the steps are here on the right. You could put A, B, all the way through H, whichever ones you think it is. So here's one of the steps from the book. Teach the raccoon to juggle. Which type of waste is this in making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Yeah, waiting. It takes a while probably to teach a raccoon to juggle. I don't know if any of you have ever tried it. Yeah, extra processing. Yeah, and then you're putting lots of letters on here, but including G, C, and H. Okay, here's another one. Step 8, wait while the donkey dons the clogs. Now you want to read the book, don't you? Um, which kind of waste is this one? Yeah, I don't know, Jan, if he did this one for this one or the last one, but for sure, it seems like unnecessary motion movement to me. Obviously waiting as well. Maybe inventory, because now you have to have 4 clogs for unknown reason. Motion, yep. Okay. And then this one has 2 steps. Have a squirrel assemble the sandwiches and recruit the 2 strongest mice to load the skateboard. What do you think? Yeah, I picked this one because of transportation. I feel like there's instead of unused talent, it could be like maybe squirrels aren't the right ones for assembling sandwiches. I mean, having observed squirrels in my yard quite a bit, I'm not quite sure about that. Overused talent. Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, so lots of waste in this picture book. Okay. We're going to do the rest of the steps now. So we identified waste here. This is a different map than the one I showed you at the beginning. But what I liked about this one is that there are some areas of waste already identified in purple. So there's motion, inventory, waiting, extra processing, overproduction, and defects and unused talent, all already identified in this process map. Okay, so let's practice ideation. So based on this identified waste, what is one idea you have for improving this process? Type it into chat. Give you a moment to do that. How could we improve the process? One idea. Have enough bread. Don't lay out the bread. Place 2 knives at the beginning. Keep 2 knives in the bread bag. Well, that's okay. That's clever. Anything else? Use paper plates. Use crustless bread. Yeah. There is crustless bread, I think. Child helps. So they're not just waiting, but participating. Plan ahead. Assess how many sandwiches are needed before starting. That's scaling. Have child complete all the steps so that they're not waiting. Have the child learn how to do it. See, there's a lot here that we could experiment with. Cater. That's a good one. I don't know where you could get. I really don't know where you could get catered peanut butter and jelly, but I bet there's somewhere. Make grilled cheese. Oh yeah, those crustables. I don't, yeah, that's what they're called, I think. So step 4 is testing. So now it's time for you to go back to your kitchen or break room and make a sandwich and tell us how it goes, especially if you have a child at home, since a lot of it involved that. Ready, set, go. Just kidding. I am going to make you a little bit hungry though by talking about the ingredients for successful process mapping. And here they are. Change in staffing or procedures can be a catalyst. Changes come at us fast and hard in libraries. Sometimes that's people leaving, sometimes that's new staff coming on, sometimes that's a new software, something like that, and that can be a good catalyst. Another one is leadership enthusiasm helps. And so if you are a leader here, awesome. You can use that enthusiasm to help change some procedures. You could share this later with your leadership and get them enthusiastic about doing some process mapping, but that enthusiasm really helps because it does take time and effort. Another ingredient is to know everyone who's impacted. When you really sit down and map out the whole process, then you're like, wait, that's another department that is impacted by our workflows. It does help to bring in an outsider with fresh eyes. That could be someone from another department, someone from another library. You could have a process mapping buddy across, across the county, so that they have those fresh eyes because, we all think that our procedures are right and they are working, but they can be better. And you want to set expectations. And that is that it takes time to save time. Process mapping doesn't happen in 30 minutes necessarily. It takes longer than that. And then you have to go back and revisit it. It takes time to think about the changes that you're making. And messiness in the middle is totally normal. It will feel like, wait, what are we doing? And why are we doing it? And are we making too many changes? And that's all part of the process. And as I mentioned with my comments at the beginning, with people not sure if they wanted to participate and being hesitant to participate, positive change can be hard too. It's not just negative change that we don't like. We don't like any kind of change. And that positive change can be hard for people as well. So with that, let's see. I'm going to show you one other quick example. And that was a process mapping with Tech Help. This is my bonus example. And Tech Help service is a little more complicated than Library of Things processing. These were our objectives for working together. And there's our step 1 process map. There are squiggly lines on there because no one knew what happened at that part of the process. And so it was a good thing to map out. And then we identified waste. Those are the little sticky colored dots in this case. And then we ideated so many things that we couldn't fit them all on our nice little chart. And they turned that chart, this library, into planning, kind of like a Trello, but this is Microsoft Planner, all these different cards with their ideas so that they could prioritize them and decide what they were going to accomplish next. And the team reported what they liked from this process was seeing the whole, identifying steps and hurdles, and improving what was a really complex problem. And Jane, thank you for putting this in chat, that another thing that's helpful is to make sure that any group process, that there's these normal group things that happen where there's storming, norming, and performing. I think I like to say there's 5. Adjourning at the end can be hard too. And so, yeah, make sure that you know that when you're working together, these are all normal things that happen. Okay, Oh, there's that team working together. Brandy, if you email me, I'd be happy to send you a copy of these slides, so that you can look at them more closely. That might be easier than rewatching the video later. And my email is right there on the slide. And yeah, Microsoft Planner is news to Jane. Yep, it is like Trello. It is a great way of organizing your daily tasks or your group tasks. It has a lot going for it too. So I hope you give it a try with a sort of overly complicated but not too complicated process at your library. And yeah, let me know how it goes for you. And please keep in touch. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. And I know you need to get to another session, so I will end the recording now. Thank you, everyone.